Nearly 30 years after Tupac Shakur was gunned down on the Las Vegas Strip, the first and only murder trial in his killing is underway. And prosecutors say the man who helped crack this cold case is the man they're trying to convict, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. The state claims that Keefe D. didn't pull the trigger, but that he orchestrated the whole killing. An act of revenge after Tupac and his entourage allegedly beat Keefe D's nephew, Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, at the MGM Grand. Now, prosecutors argue that Keefe D got a gun, that he got into a white Cadillac with some associates, that he hunted down Tupac and Suge Knight and handed off the weapon to the shooter. What's their evidence? Well, a lot of it, maybe arguably most of it, comes straight from Keefe D himself. During the prosecution's opening statement, the jury heard Keefe D himself, in his own words, allegedly admitting his involvement during a 2008 police interview. The state also plans to use his memoir and years of interviews where he allegedly made confessions. But the defense says there's one big problem, that all those times Keefe D said he was behind Tupac's killing, he was lying. Keefe D's attorney called the state's story fiction, saying that Keefe D talked BS to basically sell a book and build his reputation, arguing there's no reliable independent evidence even putting him inside that Cadillac, and that law enforcement never verified his accounts and only charged him so many years later. The first witnesses called today provided details about what happened before, during, and after the shooting. There wasn't so much that tied Keefe D to the crime. Well, maybe. Yet retired Las Vegas police officer Gary Dale says he pulled over Tupac and Suge Knight about 15 minutes before the shooting and then responded after Tupac was shot. And he says that he asked Tupac in the ambulance who did it. Tupac's alleged response? No, we'll take care of it. I was thinking, does that mean the prosecution could argue that Tupac knew his shooter was tied to Anderson and Keefe D? Then you had Ingrid Stokes testify. Now, she was riding in a convertible near Tupac's BMW when the gunfire erupted. She claims that they heard the shots, sped away, nearly collided with another car, but she couldn't identify the shooter. And then the jury heard from retired Las Vegas homicide detective Brent Becker, one of the original detectives who investigated Tupac's murder in 1996. He interviewed Suge Knight after the shooting and Orlando Anderson just weeks later. So the question is, what evidence do they really have against Keefe D? Just his own words? Is there enough? Is that enough to convict him of murder? I want to bring in Mark Geragos, criminal trial attorney, co-host of the two podcasts, Reasonable Doubt and Two Angry Men. Always great to see you, Mark. I mean, let's start here. Openings don't have to lay everything out, but they are a preview. And at the end of it, I'm thinking, is this whole trial about whether or not you believe Keefe D was telling the truth?
And I thought his defense lawyer laid out pretty much that exact proposition. And I would also tell you, even though I never make the decision whether to call my client until the end of the prosecution case, you can pretty much bet he's not taking the stand, because you can imagine what the cross-examination would be in this case. They told you, don't believe anything he says. Now you're supposed to believe him when he's on trial for his life and he's not getting a paycheck, so no.
I mean, Ingrid Stokes basically was testifying that, this idea that Tupac was going out the window and people were yelling, Tupac, Tupac, didn't happen. That completely contradicts what Keefe D had said in an interview. I do think this is interesting, though, from the prosecution's point of view. The frequency of statements, the circumstances of the statements, the idea that he allegedly admitted to being involved in Tupac's murder when he wasn't even being questioned about it in 2008. He was being questioned about the killing of Notorious B.I.G. I wonder if that could be problematic for the defense.
I don't really think so. I think your point really was my takeaway today. It sure seems like the prosecution narrative, given the opening, is that this guy admitted to it, so therefore convict him. The problem was they then put on a series of witnesses, and it doesn't jibe with basically anything he said. So in the book. So it's, who are you going to believe? Me in a book that I'm trying to sell, or the witnesses that I'm calling here? And then the argument is, well, of course it was 30 years because This guy is just one of these wannabes, and he might be a lot of things, but he's certainly not guilty of this crime.
Does the prosecution have to explain why he was charged now? Right, that was another part of the defense. They're like, after all these statements, he wasn't charged or was brought to a grand jury and nothing happened, or wasn't brought to a grand jury. The question is, do they have to explain why he's being prosecuted now? And let me couple this with this question. Do they need to place Keefe D at the scene in some way?
They've got to do something more than just use his words. I mean, using his words usually is damning. But in this case, they're using his words and then they're putting on evidence that basically undercuts what he said. So yes, they better place him there, number one, or come up with some kind of corroboration, because so far, I haven't seen it. Normally, after an opening like the prosecution gave, you would expect that at least they'd have one or two witnesses, as opposed to somebody who says, I talked to Tupac and he said, I'll take care of it. That could mean 100 different things.
Yeah, what did you make of that?
Because
I imagine the prosecution's going to say, if the jury believes that Tupac said that, right? I mean, arguably a dying declaration in a way, right? I mean, before he died several days later. But I guess they would say he knew who was responsible for this, and who else was responsible for that than the person he was involved in an altercation with earlier in the night. If you connect Anderson, you connect Anderson to Keefe D. I imagine that's what the prosecution would say, right, or argue.
I think so too, but the jury's also going to be instructed. You have to be beyond a reasonable doubt, and a reasonable interpretation by the defense, which is he knew, but he didn't name him. And if he didn't name him, then you can't know. 30 years later, the reasonable explanation, even if it's not as good as the prosecution's, that's the definition of reasonable doubt.
Preview as we look in this trial tomorrow moving forward. So Nevada jurors are actually allowed to ask questions. I thought it was interesting, your take on when we hear that, if that's a preview of what the jurors are thinking. I mean, today one of the jurors asked Ingrid Stokes, can you tell which direction the shots came from? She said no. What do you think about juror questions? Should we be looking out for them as a preview?
Well, yes, I hate it. Most trial lawyers I know hate it. They introduced it here in California and it quickly got scuttled. I know in other jurisdictions, same thing. Judges love it because the theory is that it keeps the jurors engaged. The reason I hate it, the jurors are not supposed to be advocates. They're not supposed to be investigators. The jurors are there to be impartial judges of the facts. And they're not supposed to step out of that role and become advocates. And unfortunately, when you start asking questions, you step out of that role and you become an advocate.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fascinating one to watch, and we'll see it together. Mark Geragos, always appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.